Well, hello, everybody. This is Fly Nubian Money. Welcome to our channel. We're here to help you master your mindset and maximize your money. Today, we are delving into a very troubling incident that sparked a lot of discussion online. And this could be a very disturbing and trigger warning moment for you because this does involve some violence. So please watch accordingly. But we found out that Lil Durk, who is a Chicago rapper, has a son, and his 10-year-old son's name is Jerome Harris Jr. But Lil Durk's name is Dirk Derrick Banks. So we're trying to figure out how that part worked into this. But he shot his stepdad, and the stepdad came out and talked about it and said that it was the mother that encouraged him to do this. Let's also remember that we are talking about a 10-year-old child before we delve into it. Today, I'm actually joined by my beautiful queens, Lindsay Vertner. She's an international mindset coach and speaker. Marlo Layson, TV and film producer. Constance Carter, wealth activist, and Athena Gardner, CPA and wealth coach. And y'all know I usually come on here, I'm really bubbly. And I love being able to talk to you about things that are going on. But when things happen with children, it bothers me deep inside. I'm a mother. And I believe almost everybody here has a niece, a nephew, or a child. And this is very disturbing. So before we dive into this, I want us to watch the video. And then we're going to have some initial comments from our panel. So viewer discretion is advised. I have a hard time with that. I have tears welling up in my eyes. You're talking about a child. So I want to get the initial thoughts from my queens here. I'm going to start with you, Athena. What does this video invoke for you?
Well, on initial reaction, I was kind of confused because I'm like, who are all these different people? Like, there was a lot of moving parts. All I know is I heard the gunshot. I was like, oh, something definitely happened. My initial thoughts are this. It's very unfortunate that we have these domestic situations that involve the children. And honestly, I feel like when the parents cannot come together, the children are the ones who receive all the unresolved issues between the parents, and it negatively impacts the children. So my concern is mostly for the child. I do not know the background of the child's mother or the stepdad to pass any judgment on who was right or wrong in the situation. I just feel that it's very unfortunate for the child.
How about you, Constance? You are definitely a mother and you have boys.
Yeah, it's really sad. Just the amount of negativity that our Black boys are exposed to in certain areas. But in looking at it, my initial thought was, okay, whoever posted this is creating a narrative, and certainly they have more footage than what they posted. What happened before, what happened afterwards. And so we only kind of get a short snippet. I don't know, what is it, 10 seconds, 20 seconds or whatever. And it's also edited, right? So it shows them over here, then it shows them over there. So I'm interested in knowing, and we will show the police report a little bit later on, but I'm interested in knowing kind of how that all transpired, what was going on, because we really can't get the full and complete story by just that small snippet. And it was clearly edited. So I'm interested in knowing like what really happened, or I want to see what really happened.
Yeah, it felt puzzle piecey to me. Like there's some very important things that were left out. If you have enough video to show that, there's got to be more video going behind that. Marlo, what are your initial thoughts? You're a mother as well.
I am. I think for me, it's really sad. I just actually am starting the second part of a project about guns in this country, the proliferation of guns. And the startling statistic is that gun deaths like children who kill themselves with guns, and incidences like this and other incidences are so prevalent in this country. And I think people are, all the speculation aside, right? What happened before? What's the history of this relationship? Why was he there? Why was she there? Whatever was going on, I think that the bigger conversation that we need to have as a community, but also as a country, is conflict resolution, right? This is, all I see is emotional immaturity. All I see is people who don't know how to resolve conflict in a meaningful way. And all I see are people who, instead of resolving conflict verbally, want to end one another, right? They want to end the conflict with a gun. And what I need people to understand is um, that child, while he is a child, is probably going to face some kind of criminal prosecution. So this is just the beginning of what will probably be something that ends in some type of family separation or tragedy in this story. It's all really sad.
It is, and we know what happens statistically to our young men and young girls that enter to the system so early. Lindsay, what are your initial thoughts on this video? You're also a mother.
Yes, I definitely am. And seeing that video initially definitely just makes me sad to see yet another family just perpetuating the cycle. And it's like, at what point do we decide to stop growing up and passing down the things that we grew up in and making it different for our children? Because how much of that child's childhood is now going to be lost as a result of this situation? How much has already been lost from previous situations that we don't even see on camera? And just thinking about who else could have been harmed, because there were a lot of people around. It sounds like there were maybe some other kids around, and it didn't look like this young child had any sense of gun control. So that might have been his first time picking up a gun, and he could have hit one of the other kids. So it was just sad all around.
I think so too. And it just breaks my heart that it seems like every time we turn on the news every day, it is something involving a child and a gun. We want to hear what your thoughts are. Please make sure that you like, comment, and share, because this is a very important conversation that we need to have about our children, because this is a totally different life than what I grew up with. Sometimes I question myself and think, did I just not know about these things because the internet wasn't around, or is this on the increase? And I do believe it's on the increase. I have to agree with Linda Armstrong. Family members haven't learned to stay out of others' altercations. In this case, we don't know the backstory. It only causes lives ruined, and the two parties who were involved would somehow end up back together, which typically to me feels about right in that statement. But here's something that I want us all to talk about, because we do talk about this a lot. We talk about the perceptions of conflict resolution and the family dynamics. I said to you early in this 10-year-old who is supposed to be one person's child has another man's name. How do you perceive this as being? Do you think this also involved and helped increase this conflict in the family, Lindsay?
I feel like it's starting off very strange, because what? You junior for this person, but then you're this person's son, and all kinds of things going on. So it sounds like there was some potentially messy boots happening already. And we really don't know the whole family dynamic and what's happening. We only know what social media has shown us, but it seems like there are a lot of potential issues that may already be happening in this family. And it is, how do we get resources to families like this, especially if they don't see anything wrong with the environment that they're growing up in? That is probably the biggest thing that we need to solve. Like, how do we get conflict resolution resources and family counseling, especially if they're not privy to it or not willing to go? They've never seen anybody else go through therapy or anything like that. Anger management problems. You have adults raising kids that don't know how to manage their own emotions. So how am I going to teach this child that I'm raising how to manage their emotions and solve conflicts effectively?
Well, we also know from this story that the mother, and her name is Travana, she was at the time calling out, the who she's saying the father, Lil Durk, um, the Chicago rapper, saying that he was being a deadbeat father, and she had to go around and get DNA tests to prove the paternity, and she had to actually get the DNA from his parents, not directly from him. And so Lil Durk has 10 kids, y'all. 10. What is it with these rappers and these kids? And then you have people saying that he's a deadbeat. What happened to our family dynamics? Constance, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because that's a lot of kids, and you're affecting everyone's life, the children, the mothers. What are your thoughts about this?
I got a headache, but I blame white supremacy. I'm always blame white supremacy for what's going on in the Black community. I mean, no, it's just it's so frustrating. I swear, it's so frustrating to see all of these things that are happening. And I hate to look outside of ourselves, but when you look at other communities and you're not seeing this on this same level and the same scale that you see this in our community. And you just got to go back historically, and you have to look at what sort of happened and transpired in our communities over the years. But we it's time for us to wake up, Black people, because this ain't it. And this seems to be the rule and not the exception in a lot of communities. And it's heart-wrenching and it's heartbreaking. And it's like, y'all, they didn't fucked around and gave us the internet. So we got access to the internet. We know better. We don't just have the proximity of the people that are around us. We know that there's more out there. We know that there's better. Like, we can do better. We can be better, Black people. And that's what I just want for us. It's just like, but I realize that if this is all you see, this is all you know, this is all you do, I just want us to do better. That's all.
I do too. If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, and we are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have some wonderful resources for you to get your household in order financially, and all you have to do is go to our website for that, flynubianmoney.com. And then also, if you don't want to miss any of our episodes, all you have to do is just text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And if you do miss anything, you always can go back and watch the replay, like, comment, and share there. And also check us out on Spotify. I am going to change that dynamic a little bit, and I'm really curious to see what our viewers are also going to say on the dynamic that we're getting ready to take. Please continue to put your comments in, because we would love to hear your thoughts. Clarence Payne says he agrees that Black folks have glorified guns, and this is the fallout. 66% of all murders are committed by a family or domestic member. Now, while I'm not sure on that percentage, I do know that it is a very high percentage, and that's something that we also have to take into account as well. Let me switch it up a little bit. We have been talking about the little boy, because let's call it like it is. He's a little boy. He's not even preteen. He's 10 years old. So let's switch to what we know about his mother, Travana, sorry. We know that from her posts, which we do have a few posts of hers from her Instagram, that some of the things that she say just don't feel to me are becoming of a mother. I'm trying to be nice. This is right after, y'all. This is right after this happened. And she came out with these photos of her showing her butt and twisting to the side and, just saying she's blessed, those little emojis, and talking about mental health, highly favored, and then throwing up the middle finger. this draws some new questions for me, and I would like to hear from the panel because I want to know, Athena, do you think the mother involved her son in this dispute on purpose?
I think if you pull up and bring your children, knowing that you're going to have an argument or even potential to have some kind of disagreement, dispute, you are involving your children. Honestly, I do not like those photos. I do not like how she represented herself. It doesn't help her situation, to not default blame or to represent her as a good mother. And I think this situation really highlights family structures and dynamics and how we're choosing and who we're choosing to procreate with. And we need to have more accountability around that. And I know a lot of things are going on in these streets and people feel like they can just sling it, lay it low, spread it wide throughout the community like that. But I think people need to understand that when you do have sex with someone and you do procreate with them, you're basically making an agreement with this person that you agree with who they are, their lifestyle, and the potentials of what your legacy with them is going to be through a child. And I think we need to start taking responsibility for our sexual nature in that way and understand behind sex, that is what we are doing. Because then on the other side of that, because you were just trying to have fun, now you have a lifetime of headache dealing with somebody that you're not on the same page with. And you might have issues co-parenting and those things. I also think this situation highlights what certain things that need to be corrected in our educational system. There has been so much focus on STEM and other things which are important, but I think to have a well-rounded curriculum and education of a society, to progress as a society, we need to include more of those conflict resolution, relationship management, all of those things.
I agree, but then there's also the point where the young boy has mentioned that his mom reacts that way sometimes when she gets mad. And so what impact might this behavior that he sees on his mother doing have on the children, both emotionally and psychologically? Marlo, you are in TV. We do see a lot of this stuff on TV. How can you answer that question about how he perceives this, not just within media, but within his own household with his mom?
I think children are a mimic, right? You have a child, everybody's like, oh, my kid curse, right? And whatever your favorite curse word is, I'm sure your 2-year-old has said it, and then it makes you reevaluate your thoughts. What happens is with people who turn around and think that it's cute, right? People who turn around and they don't see anything wrong with it. People who believe they're going to learn as it relates to small children and the things that they are exposed to and have access to. And that's the biggest job of a parent, right? Is to be a gatekeeper and to filter that stuff for your child, right? Some stuff is okay if you want to explain it at their age level. But for the most part, things that are for kids, right? But if your child sees you acting out, if I see a child, I'm pretty sure I could determine the type of household that child is coming from, especially a 10-year-old, right? Because they're going to act out the behaviors that are expressed within that household because that's all they know. Because if they knew better, they would exhibit what they knew that was better, right? So he is acting out because she acts out. She, as the mother, has the obligation to protect the child, right? So if I'm in a conflict with somebody, well, I mean, you pulled up with your kids, so you weren't worried about being in a conflict. But in the mindset that I have, if I am in a conflict with my significant other and my child is in the house, I'm going to excuse her. And it's not going to escalate or elevate to a level where she is not going to feel safe. But that's because I'm in my faculties, right? I'm not in my emotional self. I'm thinking and being, I hate to use rational because it's such a terrible internet word and so overused, but I am trying to be rational in a heated moment, right? So I think that's the thing that's missing. That's the missing factor. And if that's the way she behaves, then that's the way, not just that child, but all of the children in that house probably deal with some type of rage or inability to cap emotions in a way that's healthy.
I agree with that. Now let's switch it up a little bit, because now you've got three elements. You have the father, Lil Durk, who has not, by the way, guys, come out and said anything at all about this, not that I know of, as our broadcast for today. And I was directly looking for something for him to say, but he has not. I have a lot of unanswered questions there. And second, you have the stepfather who is actually walking around with a gun on his hip. And so the child reaches out and grabs that gun from his hip and then actually uses it on him. This dynamic is really, really powerful. And I see that, you know, we're breaking down the dynamics of our family. You've got a father, a stepfather, a mother. All of them seems to have some type of irresponsibility to this child. And this is how this child is reacting. So, Lindsay, how do you think this impacts the children, both emotionally and psychologically?
Yeah, I don't think we often understand the environments that we raise our children in, how it impacts them in that way, because there's emotional trauma that is happening in this situation. And who knows how many times before that emotional trauma can lead to anxiety, can lead to depression, can lead to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. All of those things could manifest in their behaviors as being defiant at school, defiant to authorities, defiant to parental figures. It can lead to aggressive behaviors towards family and other kids that they are going to school with. If they go to school on a regular basis, it can lead to withdrawing from community and from society and kind of shutting down in a sense. Have you ever been around somebody and it's like they just kind of cower to themselves and they don't really interact? And even when you try to talk to them, it's like you got to force them just to respond to the question. All of these things are a result of growing up in environments like this. And we also don't realize the developmental delays that it causes. It causes impaired social skills, low self-esteem, low confidence, developmental delays in their ability to actually be present and take in the information that they're supposed to be learning at school or learning from their guardians. It really just negatively impacts them all around. So we've got to figure out, how do we do better as a community to come back together as a village and really erase these narratives that we are raising our children in, so that they could have a better future.
I agree, because we're losing that, I feel, in our communities, especially our Black communities. We're losing that touch with our children. We're allowing so much to enter into their brain. And we all talk about how a village is. I grew up in a little bitty town outside of Louisville, Kentucky, and everybody out there was my village. If I got in trouble down the street, you better bet I got to switch all the way down. And I was still watching cartoons at 10. Hell, I was watching cartoons at 14. So I can't even imagine that. I will also say that we had guns in our home for different reasons, and I was taught to respect those. I didn't even touch those. I didn't even think about looking at those. And I only watched my parents go out and do what they were going to do with their hunting at the time. And, you know, it's a matter of how we're teaching our children and allowing them to feed their brains with what's out there. We do have some comments from the posts that the stepfather had put out, and then also the actual interview that was done with the police, that there was a little bit of backlash, guys, from the stepfather putting out this video. And as you can see, his name is Reezy, whatever. I know what that means, but I ain't going to say it. Don't give a F. As y'all can see, I was not the aggressor, and y'all also can see how I still had my gun on my hip. He grabbed my gun off my hip, following his mom's lead, and tried to shoot me, and then actually shot me. I advise y'all to see it before they take it down. So look at the first comment, guys. This is our mentality, and I want to hear what y'all have to say about this. So you got up here and snitched on a kid. Now, want to stop there because we're going to bring this back up because I want to address that next one. I want to know, Constance, this snitching mentality. What is your thoughts on that?
I don't have anything intelligent to bring to the conversation. I promise you, because I just can't. I cannot. I cannot. I just y'all. I'm so disappointed in our people sometimes, and I just, I just want the best for us. I really do. And so my life is really about serving our people and what can we do to improve our situations and things like this. It just puts me in such a negative space, and I don't understand the lifestyle because I'm not from there. I certainly have relatives that live this way. And I just try to, I just try to just lead by example. This whole snitching bullshit. Listen, Lil Durk has 10 kids. I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and she was telling me how her family thinks she's extremely judgmental because she's always, talking about how, you need to do better, 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 right? And so they don't really trust her. They don't really tell her a whole lot. And I said, you know what? I have a nephew. My brother's son. He has like 6 kids by 5 different women by the time he was 23. And I said, you know what? I don't give him no problems. You know why? Because he don't ask me for no money. I don't worry myself about what he doing. I don't bother him. Nothing, because he don't ask me for nothing. So I ain't got no opinion on what the hell he doing. I cannot control his situation. I can't. The moment you start to try to you start to try to care, that's when you get yourself stressed out. And so, my thing is, just kind of working with the people who want to do better, the people who want to be better. This whole snitching culture is stupid as shit. So you mean to tell me that if somebody kills your mama, I'm not gonna snitch because that's like that's just like the stuff that we have taken and the stuff that we do, and this jail mentality that we've adopted as a people is stupid as shit. And we got to get our stuff together because we're going downhill fast. And I heard a statistic that said, or I heard somebody said, I think it was Dr. Frazier said, that this is the only generation that's going to do worse than the previous generation since we've landed on this land. So every generation has done progressively better than the previous generation, and this generation here is actually going to do worse, and that's mentally, physically, and financially. And so we really need to make a huge transition in our community, or else we're doomed.
I agree. But I don't think that we can't be saved if we want to save our own selves. If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, and we are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We love having you here. So I'm going to ask you to do us a big favor. I want you to like, then I want you to comment, and I want you to share. If you are on the replay, please do the same because we love to keep the conversation going. But if you do miss us, you always can catch us on Spotify. Just go over there and look us up, Fly Nubian Money there, and you will find all of our episodes there, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating there. You can't get away from us, and you don't want to. So you also can text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948 so that you could be notified every time that we come on. Now, listen, I'm really interested in hearing what you, our viewers, have to say on this. This is such it's a community issue. So I want to hear from our communities, and we are a community, whether you want to admit it or not. And there is a pretty good comment here that I want to call up, and it's from I'm Here. I'm not saying the child is innocent. I'm saying I am waiting. I don't know the whole story. It sounds weird. There's holes in the story. I'm waiting until the whole story comes out. And I think that's a thing that we've all mentioned. We feel like something is missing. Something is missing because, first of all, wasn't she going over there for another dispute with another child? It was my understanding she was going over there to argue about another child, and then now this child gets involved. So now you got 2 children in this situation. So Marlo, I'm curious to know, do you think Little Durk should be coming out with some type of statement about this? I mean, this is his child, and he did eventually claim that that is his child.
I think that much like Candace and myself, Lil Durk don't have anything positive to bring to this conversation, right? Nothing to add of value to this conversation. And I'm judging that on the fact that he has 10 kids by all these different women. I'm basing that on the fact that his lyrically, Lil Durk does not offer much in the realm of positivity and enlightenment. So I think that he is probably best to be quiet. Maybe he should, like the guy was laid up in the hospital, maybe he should follow his lead like he suggested in one of his million posts and try to get custody of that young man and see if this Lil Durk money and access can help this child not feel like picking up a gun is the first thing, right? But I think more than anything is, if Black people are going to own guns, right? We got Killer Mike, we got all these people talking about you exercise the Second Amendment. I believe in it. I'm a gun owner myself. But you gotta understand safety. A child that is raised in a home where they understand gun safety is never going for anybody's holster. A child that, like, there's just certain things, because I know we're looking at it in the aspect of who shot John and this and that. I'm thinking about accidental shootings. As a journalist, I write about more accidental shootings than homicides, right? There are X amount of incidences a year. A small percentage of them are gun homicides, but a lot more of them are children who come in contact with a gun, adults playing with a gun, and are not being safe with a very dangerous weapon, right? A dangerous instrument. I won't even call it a weapon, because for people that hunt, they probably feel offended by that. But I think that if we're gonna have guns, teach your kids. Most gun ranges allow children, if you sign consent forms, teach your children that these are not guns. One of the things that the media has done that is awful is help proliferate guns, right? We saw when we were growing up, or some of us were growing up, we watched cartoons, as you mentioned, Lala, and they would shoot each other and then you respawn, right? So before the end of the episode, he was back, even though he got shot 15 minutes into it. Kids are growing up with that same experience in games like Halo and Grand Theft Auto, right? Where they are disconnected from the reality of what happens when a gun is fired. And I think that this is a moment, right, for Black people who defend the Second Amendment and people who are kind of indifferent to it, to come together and say, we need gun education in our community, because this could have been way worse. It could have been way worse, because kids freak out and guns go off more than once, right? This was like an intentional trigger pull, but sometimes kids freak out. Anything could happen. So I think we need to take this moment. If you don't learn anything else, learn that you need to bring your kids to the gun range and learn gun safety, or put them in a program where they learn and respect firearms in a way that's going to save their life and potentially someone else's.
I agree. I too am a gun owner, and I am a responsible gun owner, and I make sure I go to the range. I've got my certificates. There's no excuse that if you are going to use your Second Amendment right, that you don't have to be educated. But you brought up a great point, Marlo. We're talking about, educating the children on these things. It's the same thing when we talk about sex. You can't talk about sex. You can't talk about the things that these kids are facing every single doggone day, every time they're turning on the TV or just with friends. We had a comment, I think, that's very interesting. And it says, I blame his mother, to be honest. I believe she raised him to be loyal to her, to him, her mother, importantly, loyal to current backwards times culture. I have to agree with that. But Athena, I'd like to know your thoughts on how we can promote healthier conflict resolution with adults, because the children are the one watching us. They're doing, I'm not going to say do that with kids. We also lead by example. So you also had brothers. And so I'm curious to know, from your point of view, how can we do that? And how was your brothers taught?
Listen, when it came to certain subject matters, in the house. It didn't matter whether you were a boy or girl, you were going to get the same education on it. And one thing that I appreciate about my parents at the time, even if they instituted like a rule or something that they were telling us, even if we disagreed about anything, they always left the option to have a discussion about it so we can actually gain some understanding around it. And I think that really starts at home. And I think what that helps us, or at least helped me, was that whether or not they agreed with what I was thinking, I was able to express myself and I was able to communicate. I think a lot of us in these households don't get the experience of expressing ourselves because it's kind of like you're a child, you're seen, you're not heard, whatever I say goes. A lot of households in our community are the people running those households are very controlling and you cannot express yourself in certain ways or it's seen as disrespectful. And I think in some ways that has come back to our detriment because now we're having fully functional adults that don't know how to communicate their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, and also growing up in environments where that is not encouraged. As far as anything that would be a solution, I think that would have to definitely be program based. I think that would definitely have to be educational based. And that's why I said that when we're looking at especially US education system, in comparison to other countries like Finland, Norway, they have within their schools, or Japan, things that everyone has to do or learn, and that is non-academic. In Japan, all the kids have to clean up. They don't have janitors. In Finland, there's no test because you actually have to know the answer, or there's no and there's a fostering of thought and communication. So some of these courses and things I think are available on a collegiate level, but how many of us go to college, right? Or is even looking at that as an option. So I think what needs to happen, because it cannot be guaranteed at the home, which I truly believe education is at the home level first, and that's how my parents operated and we benefit from. Unfortunately, that is not the case, across homes. So we need, as a society, to revamp our education system to include these soft skills, because more and more, it doesn't matter how, a lot of us know how to work, a lot of us know how to do certain things, but it seemed like we struggle the most on these soft, interpersonal skills that affect us tremendously.
I agree with that. I think that we should look at the video again, but I want to give a disclaimer. Viewer discretion is advised. There is gun violence in this video, but we will run it again for you just in case you have not seen it. Me personally, it breaks my heart. I have a really hard time with it. So let's go ahead and roll that footage just in case you have not seen it already. Just the sound of that just really just breaks my heart. I know we always we're definitely talking and tackling some very important issues, gun control, child, a minor. But I also want to look at some of the comments that were put up on the social media pages of some of these people so that we can see how the community is so split. Here's a few that I want to address. Tasha said, if you go look at the video, she was the aggressor. She was the one that pulled up at his grandmother's house and did all that in front of his mom, grandma, and other kids that were out there. She was wrong for putting her child in that situation and even going over there. Then Ruby also said, we just saw the video on TikTok. He wasn't even hitting his mother. He seemed to be grabbing her back, protecting himself. He didn't deserve to get shot. And she telling her young son to shoot a gun, putting his life in danger. So we have got two on, there's two other ones that are very interested. So our 3D Velvet said, I don't like the kid was wrong. I don't feel like the kid was wrong. The adults are wrong for even putting him in the position to feel he needs to defend anyone. I agree. And then Social Butterfly says it's crazy how women won't call out the obvious. The mother is to blame. What was she there? Why? What was she there? Why did she bring her son with her? She allowed all this to go down because she refused to make rational decisions. Now, we talk about the tough part, but there is also financial ramifications of all of this, guys, because now this child is most likely been turned over to authorities and juvenile. So you're going to have the attorneys, you're going to have the therapy, you're probably going to have a custody fight on the situation. Lindsay, what are your thoughts about how this could not only affect, because everything is body, mind, spirit, and that includes financial in there. And we're also going to ask Athena that. But I would like to hear your point of view as a therapist.
So we often don't realize how all the different areas of our life overflow and impact each other. So now on top of the stress you were already having, it sounds like the mom was probably stressing over men because she lacked emotional maturity and being able to have healthy, effective relationships. We can see that present with that whole paternity situation there. But now you have the added stress of now I have to pay all of these things, these court fees, these judicial fees, these whatever fees come with the result of this whole incident happening. So I don't know how she is going to handle all of this stress. From what I can see so far from the things that I've seen on social media, it doesn't look like she's going to handle it in the best way, which only goes back to we have to educate each other on what all of this does to our emotional health, our psychological health, our mental health, all of the things, because we can see even from the picture that she posted, she's sitting here throwing up the middle finger and, posing like she's trying to catch a date rather than checking on your son. Like if I was in this situation where my child was a witness or got involved in an adult domestic dispute, the last thing that I'm worried about is posting on social media. I should be attending to my child, checking on my child's mental health, their emotional health, their stress levels, trying to minimize the impact to my child as much as possible. So the fact that she's not doing that, I feel like this isn't even going to stress her because she doesn't know how to deal with these things anyway in an effective manner. So the children are going to be the most disturbed from this situation.
I agree. We do have a comment from Coon Dog. I like that name. I was the only laugh out of this whole conversation. I love the name. We have to get rid of the social media thing. That's where humanity went wrong. Kids are teaching themselves nowadays. I feel like I can agree and disagree with that comment. But Athena, I want to bounce to you because I want us all to weigh in a little bit of how this can also be an additional burden to the family financially. We already know the emotional aspects and, the spiritual aspects of it, but I don't know if any spirituality is in there at all with the mama coming in, throwing up the middle finger. But Athena, what are your thoughts on how this could affect this whole family and Lil Durk, who has not said a thing when it comes to his money?
Well, I think Lindsay touched on some of it. There's going to be court fees, judges' fees. There might be a court-appointed supervisor because they might not trust either parent to really take care of the child. Also, just even family structure. I know Dr. Boyce talks about the importance of, the family unit, the family structure, how that benefits everyone economically. When you do not partner with someone and come to a conclusion about a life agreement and you're having children by different women and different men, that takes away from the home. There's child support, those are payments, and not only just the money that is given away to a household outside of your main household, but the government and court system benefits financially from that as well. And that's money taken out of your household that could be going towards creating generational wealth. Also, the amount of kids we're having. So globally, all of the birth rates are declining because of the economy and inflation. So I don't know how people are doing it. I personally don't have any children at this point in time, but to have multiples of kids from different fathers and different situations, I don't know how people are affording to do this, to be honest with you. I'm always like amazed by these situations. And that certainly does not help you advance as a household, as a society, and to move forward in any way that is positive. So, all around, I feel like this situation hits on a lot of issues within our community that we can all learn from and understand that this is an example of what not to do and some of the ramifications of not proper life planning.
I agree. Constance, do you have anything to add to that with financial wise?
Yeah, I was thinking exactly what she was saying in terms of the breakdown of the Black family, and that's the bottom line. And again, I'll take that back to white supremacy, right? But no, I mean it's just our experience in this country of where we are as a family unit, what it has done, and how it's decayed morally. A lot of the families, you don't have two-parent households. That affects how relationships, the dynamic of relationships, how we raise our kids, and of course our wealth. And the reason why our wealth is what it is because our family units aren't intact. What is it? I think 40% of Black people actually get married or something like that. And then our divorce rate, is even higher. So when you have the breakdown of the family, of course this is going to be the result. So it's unfortunate because all of these things are necessary in order to build a strong Black community. But this again seems to be the rule and not the exception in some of our communities, not all of our communities, but in some of our communities. And it's unfortunate, but that's just what we're faced with. I don't know, because I always try to think solution oriented. I don't even know the solution because it seems like it's so deeply, and I don't want to say like it's a lost cause, but it's so deeply ingrained in some people that it's just like, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much you teach them, it just doesn't get through. And it's unfortunate. I don't even know what to say because you could talk until your face turns blue, but it's like if they ain't listening, then what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, at some point you can talk to you can't talk anymore. It's actually up to that person to decide. The same with addiction. You can talk to someone who's addicted to something till you're blue in the face. You want the best for them, but until they're the ones who want to stop the cycle, then nothing gets done. So where do we get to that point? So Marlo, I'm going to throw that question to you. So do you think that we need to really be taking precautions into the relationships that we bring into our life, especially when there's children's, especially when partners seem to have such a volatile background? I mean, we already know the background of what these parents stand for. I mean, you could just imagine just from her post how it is in her household. How do we stop this from the children after seeing this and break that cycle, so that they can be functioning community members?
I think the first stop is what Athena's been saying throughout today is education, right? And us advocating for better resources in public schools for kids. Because a lot of kids, like, first of all, let's just acknowledge some people the hood is ingrained in them, right? These, for lack of a better word, ghetto ass behaviors are ingrained in them. Some people feel uncomfortable outside of these chaotic bubbles that they have created for themselves around relationships and friendships and work and all of that, right? So let's group them together, right, for the purpose of me explaining this. And then once we understand that, some people are not going to come. But for the people that want to come, school is a stopgap for that, right? So a kid that's growing up in a house where chaos rules the day can get to school, find someone that is going to benefit them, someone that's going to see the potential in them and help them grow, right? Preferably that is a Black teacher that comes from a neighborhood similar to that understands that child without judgment, right? But that child needs someone outside of that household to show them a different world. someone outside that household to show them communication without elevated voices, to show them communication without physical engagement, right? That child needs an alternative. So I think that if we look at this from a healing perspective, we got to start with young kids and making sure that young kids that are especially in those really toxic homes have an outlet where they can see a different way, because that's where it comes from. People don't see a different way, so they just stay in the mix, right? If everybody is here, this must be my station, and some people are okay with that. What we have to help young people understand is this is just a station, right? But the next station is a station, the station after that, the one across the street. There's so many different stations where you can find yourself, and you can hop between stations. You don't have to be stuck at one. So I think that if we are looking at truly restoring and building our communities, we got to make sure that our public schools are strong, because that is where a lot of kids get saved. I've talked to a lot of people, I've interviewed a lot of people, and most people who were lost, most people who were in bad home environments found their way out through a trusted adult that was in the school system, in a community center. So those of us that are doing well, presumably have access, have interest, but also are rooted in these types of communities and do have connections to people who live foul and wild, we should be reaching back to those young people and making sure that there are resources available.
But can I just add to that though? Because that's part of the problem is the school systems. When you look at economically how the taxes are distributed to the schools, the higher the taxes, the more money that they get. And so a lot of these kids that are behaving and acting out in this manner, they're in the schools that don't have all the resources, the same resources as our white counterparts. And so they don't get the same education, they don't get the same support system. And so yeah, you go home and shit is messed up, and then you go to school and shit is messed up. You have teachers that don't care. You have you have books that are falling apart. You have mold in the building. So it's part of the bigger problem, and that all goes back again to my favorite thing, white supremacy, because they don't care, because it doesn't affect them. They're not putting the resources. Now, if they took all the taxes and they equally distributed to all the schools, that would be fair, right? Then everyone would have the resources they need. But it's unfortunately it's not set up that way, because the people who have are the ones that have established this rule. So that's the unfortunate thing, is that yeah, you do have these environments, but you don't have a lot of the resources in the schools to be able to support that.
Black people taking your money to the suburbs. Stop taking y'all money. Stop. I watched it happen in New Orleans. New Orleans is a black city, right? New Orleans is an all black city. Black wealth, top to bottom, majority, right? There's old white money there, but black people moved to the edge of the city of New Orleans East. Black people moved across the lake into other communities that were not historically black communities, and they took that tax base that funded the schools that I went to and that my peers went to. So I think that also understanding how all of this works, right? Because if you know that you're leaving everybody behind when you make these moves, maybe you won't make these moves. I mean, maybe you will make them, but maybe when you leave grandma's house that you're renting out, you actually pay the taxes on it and don't let it go lapse, right? Like, I think that there's so many things that we as a community need to have a mass understanding of that we just lack. And this is unfortunate, and seek information, people.
And that's why it's really important that we also educate not just our schools. I mean, I love being able to educate about real estate and how you can use that to launch into a better thing and give your children a generational wealth that way. But we have a comment that I want to definitely address, and it's from Luffy. And it says, Durk don't have 10 kids. Some are his dead brother's kids, an India child before he got with her and her sister's kids. Well, I want to start my comment off on that. In my family, there's no such thing as step. Once you step in to being a parent, you are a parent. And that's just the way that it is in my community. I think a lot of the times we like to put labels on things like, well, he's just a stepfather, or but if that person has stepped in full-fledged and has stepped into that full role, then they become the father. I was officially raised by my aunt, but to me, my mama is my aunt, and I would never say otherwise. She was the one who nurtured and loved me. So I think it doesn't matter as long as you are the one who's claiming these children. Like in this picture, I want to bring up this picture of these beautiful kids again. If you're claiming to be the father, then you are the father. So there shouldn't be a distinction on, oh, he just a step or he just grabbed some in. There should never be a but when it comes to children. You're either in their lives or you're not in their lives. That's my comment, and angry about that, because I think that's where we start having a breakdown of the families, when we start getting a little too iffy. But now here's a question, and I'm going to ask each one of you queens. But first, I want to remind you who you're watching. Guys, you're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You also can catch us on Spotify. All you have to do is go over there and put in Fly Nubian Money, and you'll find us there so you could take us on the road with you. And then if you don't ever want to miss a show, all you got to do is type in the word Queens, Queens. Don't forget the S. 87948. And I got something else to say. We've been having some really good comments. I love to continue to hear these comments. Keep putting them in, y'all. We love them. So if you think that you got what it takes and you would like to be a guest on our show or be a part of Fly Nubian Money, please make sure that you send an email to info@realvirtual.net. And real is REEL. So let me spell that out for you so you don't forget it. info@REELVIRTUAL.net. All right, queens, we're winding down, and I want to hear your final thoughts, but I want you to throw in your answer to this question as well. Do you think that it was wrong for him to be protecting his mother? And I'm going to start it off with Lindsay.
I knew you were going to do that. For me, it's hard to say because, like we've said already throughout this conversation, he shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place. Now, I get it. Children want to protect their parents, especially if it's someone that they love and look up to. So on the one hand, and in his immature mind, it was perfectly okay for him to protect his mother. On the other hand, the logical, rational side, it wasn't, because he's going up against adults. He's going up against guns. He's in a situation that, again, he shouldn't have been in the very first place. So it's really, really hard to say. I understand what he was trying to do, but he shouldn't have been there in the first place. And all the blame is on the mother for not protecting her child. That's what it is. The mother did not protect her child because she put her child in a position to need to defend her for whatever reason. So that's my final thoughts. I know we got to work on resources in these communities and getting rid of these shows like Bad Girls Club, and where they're just constantly fighting, and the music. And I don't know. I don't have any advice on how we can make the real solutions to decrease these problems. So those are my final words. My name's Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker, and you can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com.
Thank you, Lindsay. Please make sure that you go and check out Lindsay. She has some great resources on her site as well. Athena, what are your final thoughts, and where can we find you?
I do think that I don't think a child is wrong for trying to protect their mother, especially a male child, because that is a man's instinct. But it's unfortunate that that was what he was shown or taught to do, because now it has serious ramifications in his life. And I think that this issue really helped us in touching on a lot of issues that we need to correct as a community when it comes to gun safety, violence, education, across the whole spectrum. And I hope that our audience is watching, learn from this as what not to do, and implement action steps to make our own lives better. If you want to find out more about me, I'm Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and a wealth coach. You can find me at wewealthwomen.com. There you will find resources, especially if you're a woman who wants to learn to confidently manage your finances and to create the wealth that you deserve.
And I have been to Athena's website, so you want to make sure that you go and you check out all the wonderful resources that she has. Constance, It's your turn. I think you just disgusted and hurt. We all are, but I think you've expressed me very well today. So I want to hear your final thoughts and where we can find you.
So when I think about children that are put in this position, I think about people who are abused, right? We see people in abusive situations where their children step in, they end up getting the brunt of the ass beatings. I think even recently there was a child that stepped in that tried to defend his mother, and he ended up getting killed for it. So I think it's a natural thing for a child to step in to try to protect their mother. Remember the guy who in Chicago, the little boy who shot that guy for punching his mother in the face at the hot dog stand. So, kids are always going to defend their parents no matter what. I don't care. If somebody was trying to whoop on me, my kids will come in to try to defend me. So the kid doesn't have any blame. I don't think the kid is only doing, I think, what naturally comes to him, and that's defend his mother. The problem is the parents putting them in the predicament to have to do that. The problem is the toxicity that existed in that, which created this whole scenario. That's the problem. So I think the mom is the problem. She hella ghetto. Look at the pre and the posts of the situation. Look at her flipping the camera off and all that stupid ass shit. And then the stepfather is to blame too. You around here, I guess you're trying to break her up, but you still got the gun on your hip. You got people around. You got your mama there. You got your kids. It's just it just reeks of toxic ghetto behavior. And it's unfortunate, but it is, the unfortunately a lot of people's lifestyles. And I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what to say. I just want us to do better, because they are our people. They are our family. They're our cousins, our aunties, our sisters, our brothers. They are us. And so, if we are only as strong as the weakest of our people. And I just want better for our Black people, period. But where can you find me? Everything. I am Constance Carter on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. I have some really great information. I have what's called the Grow Your Money Club, where I share with you wealth of information for everyone, for men, women, boys, girls, Black, white, and everybody in between, just different ways that you can grow your wealth. So I'd like for you to go ahead and go to growyourmoney.club and sign up to get access to all of my training and information.
Don't miss out on that. Constance has a lot of great information, just as all of our other queens here. I just cannot stress that enough. You want to make sure that you follow up and look them up as well. Marlo, what are your final thoughts, and where can we find you?
I think, first of all, sad situation all around the board. But more importantly, I think that there should be a lesson for people, right? I think there's always a teachable moment in everything. And I think that obviously the child wasn't wrong for doing, as everybody's already stated, what comes natural to him. I think that I want adults to lean more into doing what is not natural to them, right? If you grew up in a toxic situation, it was toxic. People speaking to you a certain way made you feel bad. Certain people you don't jive with because of the way that they've treated you. So how about we turn that around for our kids, right? And put them in a situation where you are their safe space. She's not their safe space. She's not safe for the kids. I wouldn't go as far as a way to say that the state should separate her from her children. That to me is harsh. But I think that she needs to evaluate herself. The problem is she doesn't have anybody telling her to evaluate herself, because the beauty and the gift and the curse of the internet is that everybody gets to have an opinion. Everybody gets to chime in and say. So she is most assuredly looking at the comments that are in agreement with her and not about to take any kind of corrective action. So I think people should just look inward and see how actions that you take in your life every day will have you looking crazy in a moment like this, and figuring out if there's a way for you to correct that. I think I'm always about corrective action. I'm always about looking at yourself and finding the answer within you. And if you are looking for me, I'm on the internet on Instagram as Ora Marlowe, and you can watch my current docuseries, Firearms Impact and Responsibility, that is streaming now on ktalnews.com, but you can just Google firearms impact and responsibility and it'll play for you. That's it for me.
Great, thank you. And Marlo has also done some things for me as well, and I like to publicly address when people help community. She is definitely a community uplifter. Before I actually say who I am, and before we move on, we've had some wonderful comments while our ladies were giving their final thoughts, and there is a question here from Hassan that says, why is violence against men so normalized? I think it is normalized in our Black communities, especially, and I think that is done by design. And Marlo, I'm going to ask you that because honestly, most of that comes from the media. So I'm going to hold off before we close out. I really want to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, we don't believe it because the whole idea of a man, the macho, the bravado, there's no way that a woman could be the attacker, the assailant, the rapist, right? That's not what's portrayed to us. So we feel like it happens on a smaller scale. And while it probably does, I mean, statistically, you look at it, there is an imbalance. But I think that people feel like because of what we've decided that a man is, right? He is testosterone, he is strength, he is, he's stronger than the woman, presumably. It's just all of those stereotypical things that go into it. And so for a man to say, I was a victim, people look at him and be like, you was a victim. Like, and then it brings on a whole societal issue, right? And the media doesn't report, unless a woman kills a man, the media does not report typically domestic incidences. I see them a lot, but they don't necessarily get reported to the extent that the opposite way, right? The man beating the woman, that's egregious. The woman beating the man, people make light of it. And that is just a sad fact of the world that we live in. Had he not posted himself in the hospital and he just posted what happened and all this after the fact, people probably wouldn't have as much sympathy for him in this situation had we not seen him laid up in the hospital. So it's just a sad fact of where we are in society and the way that images reflect to us and what we see.
I need to hear from my other queens on this. So, and let's do rapid answers on that. Lindsay, do you feel that we have normalized this?
Absolutely. That's what we see in the media, like Marlo was saying. I mean, we just saw that with the Jonathan Majors and his girlfriend, where I don't know all the details of that, so let me put that out there first. But from the things that I did see, it was where they were accusing him of beating up on her, but then the video footage comes out and she's attacking him and he's trying to run away from her. So we see it in the media all the time. That's the narrative that they want to feed us, and that's what we eat.
Woo, that's a t-shirt. Whoa, Lindsay, that's a t-shirt. Dina, what's your thought?
I have no mute. I agree with everything that Lindsay said, and I think that this was just a powerful panel today. Mm-hmm.
I agree, and sad. Constance, your thought on that? Are we normalizing this?
Unfortunately, yeah. Black men are under attack in this country, and it's no secret. But as Black women, we just have to undergird our Black men. We just have to not be the ones that are attacking them with everybody else, with everything else that's going on against our Black men. We, as Black women, have to stand firm and make sure that we're not adding to that.
I agree. And then Hassan also had one more thing to say, which I thought was very interesting. The question was, is this just a Chicago thing or is this all across America? And let me tell you something. I'm bouncing constantly across the nation. I'm an international realtor. So I am in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. I am in Florida. I am in Los Angeles. And I'm telling you every single day, this is not just Chicago. Little old Louisville, Kentucky has a horrible shoot 'em up, bang, bang concept. It's a shooting or 2 or 3 every single day. I don't believe that this is just Chicago. I do believe that this is all across the boards. Now, we don't normally always bounce back to questions and comments, but I felt it was warranted today because we are talking about a minor. So my final thoughts is, We got to do better. Our children are so much worth every minute that we put goodness into them. You have to love yourself first before you can pour goodness into our children. But you got to understand that you are worth more than what you think of yourself a lot of the times. Don't believe what you always tell yourself. And just because you're raised up in an environment like that doesn't mean you have to stick to it. You have the wherewithal to stop the cycle, and it's worth it for our children, or else we're not going to have them. They're going to continue to die early, do things that they're not supposed to do, and that robs them of their childhood. Our children are worth it, and they deserve to be able to live their life journey in the best way possible. And you can find me all across the social medias, and I just have one site that you could go to find me. It's bit.ly/Laura Key Info. Ladies, this is deeply rooted into our whole community. What is that song? This is America. Don't catch me slipping. No, right? I always hear that when I hear something like this goes on, because this is America. So how do we change it within our communities and our roots? If you're just now joining us, you missed a really good conversation. Do we have the solutions? We don't, but at least we got them out on the table to discuss, so that maybe we can find the solutions. You're watching Fly Nubian Money. We're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't have to miss any shows. All you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948. Catch us on Spotify as well under the same name, Fly Nubian Money. And if you think that you got what it takes to join this panel, all you have to do is send us an email. We would love to have you as a guest, or see if you got what it takes to join us. Email us at info@realvirtual.net. Ladies, I am grateful for you. I love you, my queens. I feel like we have a wonderful tribe here, and that we are bringing some light into the world. So take yourself off the mics, let everybody know bye, and we'll see you tomorrow. Guys, be blessed and do what's right, and pray for all involved. Bye.